Devi Mahatmyam, Chapter 12, Eulogy of the Merits. The Devi said, "And whoever, with a concentrated mind, shall pray to me constantly with these hymns, I shall without doubt put down every trouble of his. And those who shall laud the story of the destruction of Madhu and Kaitab, the slaughter of Mahishasur, and the slaying of Shumbha and Nishumbha, and those also who shall listen with devotion to this sublime poem on my greatness on the 8th, 14th, and 9th day of the fortnight, with concentrated mind, to them nothing wrong shall happen, nor calamities that arise from wrongdoings, nor poverty, and never separation from beloved ones. He shall not experience fear from enemies, or from robbers and kings, or from weapon, fire, and flood. Hence, this poem of my greatness must be chanted by all of concentrated minds and listened to always with devotion, for it is the supreme course of well being. May this poem of my glories quell all epidemic calamities, as also the threefold natural calamities. The place of my sanctuary, where this poem is duly chanted every day, I will never forsake, and there my presence is certain. When sacrifice is offered during worship, in the fire ceremony, and at a great festival, all this poem on my acts must be chanted and heard. I will accept with love the sacrifice and worship that are made, and the fire offering that is offered likewise, whether they are done with due knowledge of sacrifice or not. During autumnal season, when the great annual worship is performed, the man hearing this glorification of mine with devotion shall certainly through my grace be delivered without doubt from all troubles, and be blessed with riches, grains, and children. Hearing this glorification and auspicious appearances of mine, and my feats of prowess in battles, a man becomes fearless. Enemies perish, welfare accrues, and the family rejoices for those who listen to this glorification of mine. Let one listen to this glorification of mine everywhere, at a propitiatory ceremony, on seeing a bad dream, and when there is a great evil influence of planets. By that means, evil portents subside, as also the unfavorable influence of planets, and the bad dream turns into a good dream. It creates peacefulness in children possessed by evil spirits, and it is the best promoter of friendship when split occurs in their union. It diminishes most effectively the power of all men of evil ways. Verily, demons, goblins, and augurs are destroyed by its mere chanting. This entire glorification of mine draws a devotee very near to me, and by means of finest cattle, flowers, arghya, incenses, and by perfumes and lamps, by feeding brahmanas, by oblations, by sprinkling consecrated water, and by various other offerings and gifts, if one worships day and night in a year, the gratification which is done to me is attained by listening but once to this holy story of mine. The chanting and hearing of the story of my manifestations removes sins and grants perfect health and protects one from evil spirits. And when my martial exploit in the form of the slaughter of the wicked Daityas is listened to, men will have no fear from enemies. And the hymns uttered by you, and those by the divine sages, and those by Brahma, bestow a pious mind. He who is lost on a lonesome spot in a forest, or is surrounded by forest fire, or who is surrounded by robbers in a desolate spot, or who is captured by enemies, or who is pursued by a lion or tiger or by wild elephants in a forest, or who, under the orders of a wrathful king, is sentenced to death, or has been imprisoned, or has been tossed about in his boat by a tempest in the vast sea, or who is in the most terrible battle under shower of weapons, or who is amidst all kinds of dreadful troubles, or who is afflicted with pain. Such a man, on remembering this story of mine, is saved from his strait. Through my power, lions, etc., robbers, enemies, flees from a distance from him who remembers this story of mine. The Rishi said, having spoken thus, the adorable Chandika, fierce in prowess, vanished on that very spot, even as the Devas were gazing on. Their foes having been killed, all the Devas also were delivered from fear. All of them resumed their own duties as before and participated in their shares of sacrifices. When the exceedingly valorous Shumbha and Nishumbha, the most fierce foes of Devas, who brought ruin on the world and who were unparalleled in prowess, had been slain by the Devi in battle, the remaining Daityas went away to Patal. Thus, the adorable Devi, although eternal, incarnating again and again, protects the world. By her, this universe is deluded, and it is she who creates this universe. And when entreated, she bestows supreme knowledge, and when propitiated, she bestows prosperity. By her, the Mahakali, who takes the form of the great destroyer at the end of time, all this cosmic sphere is pervaded. She indeed takes the form of the great destroyer at the proper time. She, the unborn, indeed becomes this creation at the proper time for recreation. She herself, the eternal being, sustains the beings at another time. In times of prosperity, she indeed is Lakshmi, who bestows prosperity. And in times of misfortune, she herself becomes the goddess of misfortune and brings about ruin. When praised and worshipped with flowers, incense, perfumes, etc., she bestows wealth and sons, and a mind bent on righteousness and prosperous life. Here ends the 12th chapter called Eulogy of the Merits of Devi Mahatmya in the Markandeya Puran during the period of Savarni the Manu.